Welcome to tonight's second community session. We're going to have a focus on the middle school, but if everybody's certainly invited to be here, whether you're a middle school parent or staff member or not. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. And a couple people, if you're not familiar with Google Meets, up here in the right corner, you'll see the little chat box. If you click on that, you can submit your questions, and we will attempt to answer them via the chat box as well as we go forward. And then I'm going to do a short presentation, and we'll go back and just review to make sure we answer all the questions that we can answer before the session is over. This is being recorded, and it will be uploaded to our website in the next day or so. So people, if you know folks who maybe missed it, couldn't be here tonight or can't make any of the other evening sessions or other sessions, we have some during the day as well. They can certainly catch up by seeing these sessions. So I want to start out by just, again, thanking everybody for your patience and understanding as we all work through this unique time in our history. And as you can imagine, we've had to go through many pages of guidance documents and directives, executive orders, etc., to get to where we feel we have an excellent plan to transition back to reopening this fall. So we're going to give an overview here of what it might look like in the middle school, and then we'll go from there. So I want to start out too also by thanking the leadership team, the administrators, for all the work they've been doing and all the thought that's gone into this process. And our staff that we've been working with, throughout as well, and we continue to collaborate with as we move forward here, in particular our nurses, school nurses. So again, our first priority in our planning has been and will be health and safety of everyone, our students, staff, our school community. And secondly, our second priority is equity. And our third priority is flexibility. So I'm going to start out with health and safety again. And all this information is on our website. And we can share that here in a second. There we go. Everybody can hear. Good. All right. So again, when folks come into our buildings, adults and kids, they will be wearing a mask. They'll be wearing them on the bus too. Right? But so when people are in our schools, they will be having a mask on. There will be a couple times where they will have the opportunity to take mask breaks, and I'm going to get to that in a second here. But what it is when they are in their classrooms and the teacher has, everybody's physically distanced apart and there's no, motion, et cetera, going around, and then the teachers will direct them to have a mask break at that point, right? And there is an expectation that there will be mask breaks, right? So there will be no, I'm going to sit in a 70-minute block in the middle school and never be able to take my mask off in that 70-minute block. That's not acceptable, right? But it will be, coordinated by the teacher in the classroom, right, during different parts of the block, and it can be a staggered approach where a few kids take their mask off at a time. You kind of rotate through the class, and continue to do that throughout the block period. Right. Otherwise, students will have their mask on in the halls, moving in and out of the building, etc. The only other time they can take their mask off is to eat as well. We know why that is necessary. So we have set up our classrooms so the desks will be minimally 6 feet apart. And that's where the kids will sit, and that's where they'll stay. Now, if they're in the classroom and they have to have their mask off, they want to get up and walk up to the teacher, they put their mask on, right, as well. And we're going to spend a lot of time at the beginning of the year, not only training the adults, but training our students as well on the proper etiquette of being safe in our schools. Right? And we are taking the approach and the philosophy that this is a community necessity, and how do we keep our community safe? How do we keep our friends and peers safe as we go forward? So that training will occur often at the beginning of the school year, and it'll continue and be maintained throughout the school year as well. Okay, so that is our mask protocols and etc. So we feel it's a good balance. We know there's a lot of opinions out there on mask wearing. But again, we're following the guidance. It's been provided to us by the State Education Department, the Department of Health, and other health organizations in that regard. So, and that's what we will follow unless I'm told otherwise by those departments. Health and safety also includes the well-being of our kids and adults. And so again, we're going to spend a lot of time building relationships and building community in our schools. We've been apart since March, and so we want to regroup and develop those friendships and relationships that we have in our school community. So we will be focusing a lot early on doing that. Is 5th and 6th grade through the responsive classroom model, and 7th and 8th grade, and in the high school through restorative practices and circles and things like that. So we anticipate, again, building those communities with our students who are here and also remote as well. Right? So they have a connection to us and they feel a part of the CA community as we go forward. So again, those first several weeks are going to be a lot of protocols, a lot of training, safety things, etc. For our students, so they feel safe when they are here in our buildings and they feel comfortable to proceed, as much as they can in where we're at in the situation. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood it. Physical safety certainly is extremely important, but we also know the mental well-being of our students and staff is just as vital. We need to have their hearts in it just as much as everything else as we go forward. Again, just to reiterate about masks, and this is the guidance that we're following. And again, it's teacher directed in the sense that kids will have their masks on in the halls. They'll have them coming from the bus or the car into the buildings and leaving, etc. When they're in the classrooms, right, the teachers will coordinate when mask breaks will occur, and they will occur each block of time that they're in a classroom. And that will be the expectation as we go forward. So and we'll trust our teachers to make that happen in a safe, responsible, coordinated way within their classrooms. We do encourage families to obtain masks for their children, though we do have them, and we will give them out to kids as well as our staff as well. And the reason I'm kind of encouraging that is they can take ownership of their own mask and be part of them. It can be part of their personality as well. Especially at the middle school level, we know they're trying to figure it out, if you will, and this is the way to showcase their personality to their peers and et cetera for them. So we encourage you to obtain several masks for your child to have. Again, as a reflection of 2020. And you go out to get the new pair of sneakers for school, the new backpack. Now we include masks on the shopping list as well. But we do have them, and we will have them for the students. If they do forget them, we have extras and disposal, etc. So they will have a mask on at all times. So if you know I forgot my homework at home or I forgot my mask, you will have one on when you are here as a student, and the adults as well. The adults are expected to have them on the same amount of time as the students, and they can take them off again when it's appropriate, and they are socially distanced from the students as well. I know a lot of other questions have come up so far about just what happens if someone has fever or some of the symptoms, etc. So try to working with our local Department of Health, and I created this organizer, if you will. It's an overview. There's a lot of detail behind this, but I just wanted to go through this. I think it'll help, hopefully help some folks understand what may occur. So, someone, let's say a student or an adult, has, maybe has a fever or symptoms of fever. So they head to the nurse's office. Right. So the nurse will do a check to see if they have a fever. If they don't, this nurse will go through their usual assessments of what might be going on. If they do have a fever, right, the nurse will then be checking for the other COVID symptoms. I think most of you are familiar with those are, etc. So then what happens? Well, if it's just a fever and they have no other symptoms, right, the child is going to be sent home. Right, and the parent will need to come pick them up, and the student will need to stay home 48 hours fever-free and then the parents will have to submit, when they think they could come back, the health screening, and then or they can go to the health care provider and get a note to have their child come back as well for them. If the child or the employee has more symptoms than just a fever, right, additional to the fever, right, then we will isolate that person. The parent will be called to pick up their student. Right, and we internally will activate our own COVID response, which involves cleaning and disinfecting and those types of things in the classrooms where the child may have been. Right, at that point, the parent will need to then access a physician or a healthcare provider, and then it will be up to the healthcare provider to decide whether a test will be given or not. If the healthcare provider says, no, I don't think a test is needed, this is definitely just the flu or something else, then they can provide a physician's note, the child can return back to school. If the physician does say we're going to have you tested, need to be tested, and the Green County Health Department is putting together where that'll be available. Well, so if you have your phones, please hit the mute button. I'm told there's a lot of feedback going on here. I don't hear it on my end, but other folks can hear it. So I just ask if you're using your phone, please hit the mute button. Everybody can hear. Thanks. Let's see where I was. Okay, so if the physician says you're going to get a test, you get a test, and then you will be quarantined until you get the results at home. Right. So what happens with the results? You get the results back, and if it's a negative result, you can return back to school, assuming you're free. If it's a positive result, the quarantine will continue, right, until the requisite total, 14 days total. Right, and then the physician then you'll get a note to come back to school as well. We will then, if the district receives notice that one of our students or employees tested positive, right, then we will activate our contact tracing protocols in cooperation with the Department of Health. We'll be utilizing some software to do that. So we'll very quickly be able to. We'll be doing this even when the kids just go home, so we'll already have it in our hands, if you will. But we will be able to very quickly trace where a student has been and who they may have been in contact with, as far as the classrooms go during the day. So whether it's a third grader or a 10th grader, we'll be able to do that for them. So this is kind of an overview of how this will operate. Again, the fever is the trigger for a lot of this. And then in conjunction with symptoms, if it's just the fever, then there's nothing else will happen. And again, there's a process in place. But once we've determined that there are symptoms or potential COVID, right, and we isolate the student or employee, then the COVID response begins to take effect. And we have a process for that. No one's going home until we get a positive test back. I want to point that out as well. So a child with a fever coming to the nurse's office with a fever is not going to cause the entire building to be sent home. So we have a positive result from the health department, and then they will tell us who within the school building should also quarantine at that point. I will say throughout this process, our buildings are going to be cleaned on a daily basis and disinfected as well, not only during the day, but also in the evenings. We have the staff and the products to be able to do that. And that's why we don't have a cleaning day like many schools have in our area. So kudos to our custodial crew for that. And they've already kind of had those processes in place as far as cleaning and disinfecting. I do want to take a step back and just talk about every morning when school starts. Each morning, the employees and the families will be receiving a text and or email reminding them that they must complete the health screening. It's up here. It's not here now. Yes, right here, number 5. So you will then have to fill that out for each of your children, and the employees will have to fill it out as well. And then if everything is good, then you'll be able to come into our schools. For those of you who forget, we're hopeful that we'll be able to also automatically send out a reminder message before you arrive on campus. As we get closer to the start of the school day, the administration will have a dashboard that will give us the list of people who did not fill out the health screening, and then so we will be meeting them at the door, do the temperature check, and then the health screenings as well. So as a result of that, we're going to have multiple entrances, et cetera, to allow that to occur. For you. As far as the COVID, going back to the COVID testing, as far as the results go, again, it's the turnaround is dependent. We are working out with a local company that might be able to do a 24-hour turnaround. They're just kind of getting up and running a little bit. They've been in the business, but this COVID is different, right? So they're working on that, and hopefully they'll be able to partner with us and the other schools in Greene County to provide that service. But again, it varies, from county to county and provider to provider. So Greene County is we'll be reaching out to some of the providers in the county to possibly have them do the testing as well. But then there's the lab results that kicks in at big time as well. So we're hopeful that one, we don't need to do this, but if we do need to get tested, it will be a quick enough turnaround. So at least you'll know in advance. Our second priority is equity, and one of the reasons we went with this dynamic model of in-person combined with a choice of remote is that we feel it's the best way to provide equitable access to learning as well as equitable access to safety. And we know families and parents right now are deciding, do I send my child, do I not send my child to school? Right? And so we want to assure you that if you send your child to school, they're going to be safe and they're going to receive a fantastic education. If you choose to keep your child home, they're going to be safe, they're under your care, right? But they're also going to receive a quality education as well. Right? So this dynamic model, we feel, does all that, as opposed to some other models that are being implemented in other places. For them. Equity is really at the heart of what we're trying to do here at CA. We want to make it so every child achieves extraordinary success, regardless of where they're from or where they've been, and et cetera. For that, so everything we do is really, that foundational idea of equity for all in our schools as part of our program and such. Go with everybody. We're also going to continue to expand and roll out our Redefining Readiness initiative. And why is that under equity? Because we feel it's just as important when we monitor student success is done in an equitable way. And we realize that test scores is not that. We realize state test scores, et cetera, is not an equitable way to monitor or to announce whether a child or a school is being successful. So we will be rolling out and we'll be sharing a lot more information with parents and students at the middle school, elementary. The high school's been doing a little bit already in the first weeks of school, so that we can, and kids can take ownership of determining if they are developing the attributes necessary to be successful at the next level. I'm a middle school student, I'm working to be successful at the high school level. I'm a high school student, I certainly want to have the attributes to be successful after graduation, whether I go to college, whether I go to seek a job, go in the military, etc. And then finally, life-ready skills that will serve us well wherever we do in our futures. So we're excited about this approach to kind of announcing and recognizing what success means in our district. We think it's the right thing to do. We think it's the equitable way to monitor and showcase the success that goes on individually and collectively in our schools. And again, we'll be providing more information on this very shortly as we get forward. But you can go on our website if you want to learn more about that. But it's just, I think, an opportunity for us to really be a leader in what education, what learning should really be about. That's the whole child. Our plan, we feel, is flexible, and we know it will allow us to very as seamlessly as we believe to transition, if necessary, to a full remote model. And when I mean full remote, like everybody's at home learning at this point. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully we all do our service to our communities and stay safe and do safe things and et cetera. But we also know that things happen. So when we developed this dynamic model, we knew that it might be necessary to go fully remote. And so we'll be implementing certain aspects of this to allow that transition to occur a little bit more seamlessly. Would point out that all children will still receive an iPad like we have done for several years, and we'll work with each family to make sure they have adequate internet access for that. And to make sure our remote model is ready to go, we are going to have 2 remote days in the month of September district-wide. Those will be Wednesday, the 16th and the 30th of September. So those 2 days will be remote days. Kids stay home and they will have school similar to in April, but it'll be a different model, of course, et cetera. Lots more information on that, et cetera, will be happening, the next couple of weeks, so you'll be fully aware of that. But we just wanted to make sure you're aware of those 2 days. Your kids will be home for the day. So we want to make sure all the bugs are worked out of our remote model. So if it does occur later in the school year, we're ready for it. We can kind of take that on. So put that up there. So what's the day going to look like in the middle school? A little bit, so you can hopefully see the whole thing at once. So all grades will be here every day. That's the first choice. Or you can choose to keep your kid home every day. Class sizes here will be limited based on the DOH recommended. So the desks are 6 feet apart minimally in our classrooms, etc. And you can go forward. Students are going to be in the middle school will be pretty much with their same cohort for the entire day. 5th and 6th grade, if you if you're in Mr. Herwick's class to start today, you're going to be with that group of kids the entire day. You'll have your different teachers, all right, but you're going to be with that group. And Mr. Proper's working on, whether teachers will be moving to the classrooms. That'll be happening a lot as well. All right, but there will be times when the kids will need to move to another classroom, like science, for instance, things like that. So, but they'll be with the same core cohort, in the middle school. The other exceptions are at the 8th grade level in particular, where we have different languages and sciences and things in math and such. So kids may, may be with a group of kids through English, social studies, and math, but I'm going to go to, one teacher for earth science, where some other kids might be going to another teacher for 8th grade science. So, but pretty much you're going to be with the same group of kids all day in the middle school. Again, there will be some movement within the building to go to the specials, and that'll be coordinated, so it's not going to be, every kid in the halls at the same time, kind of thing. So that's something we're going to actually practice the first couple of weeks, and so we can kind of make sure we're safe in the hallways as well. So for the most part, with the group of kids, and again, we continue to have accelerated math and accelerated science in 7th grade and 8th grade were required. In 6th grade, so many, I think, are split into 2 sections in that grade as we go forward. We're going to have dismissals. Again, we're not going to have all kids, storm out of here at the same time at 2:30. All right, but so they'll have plenty of time to catch the bus if they are riding the bus. In the mornings, we're going to have multiple drop-off points. So if you're bringing your child to school, you'll have received directions on where to go. We'll be utilizing the back entrances by the gym, as well as possibly in the front of the building. We're kind of working that out. We'll know a lot more next week when we know how many people are driving and how many are riding the bus. We'll communicate that out once we have those numbers. Outside recess will be provided for all grades, and so we're going to work on how to, again, got the model, practice the social distance during recess. So they'll be actually 12 feet apart when they're active, physically active. So students whose parents have selected the remote option All right, you're going to be expected to be at class just like you were here physically. So if second block starts at 10 a.m., right, you need to be a second block virtually as well during the school. So now not planned to be a some like a condensed version or a random day, so to speak. You'll be following your schedule. And attendance will be taken. It's required of all students, whether they are in person or whether they are remote. For the first month, minimally, there will be, we always have called 10th period. All right, so all students will be leaving at about 2:30 every day, just so we can kind of get our feet under us a little bit and figure it out at that time. Middle school will be operating in a block schedule, which means in general, each kid will have 4 classes a day. And the next day they'll have another 4 classes, and they'll kind of alternate for the most part every other day. So we'll have English every other day for about 70, 75 minutes. One of the blocks is longer because that will include the lunch time as well. So we're implementing that in the middle school and high school for a variety of reasons. One, it's a good model for learning. 2, it'll be, again, provide us the flexibility if we have to transition to a remote model as well. So a lot of training will be provided for our teachers up front here coming up here in hopefully August and definitely early September, and ongoing coaching throughout the year to help our teachers create even better lessons in the block model. I think I mentioned already, students who are remote will be expected to attend classes. Attendance will be taken. We'll provide training for parents who want it or may need it, just so you think you might need to help your child, navigate Google Classroom, etc. Right? That'll be provided as well. Special education intervention services will be provided for remote students as well. It's just that they were here in person. So we'll do what we have to do to make sure the IEP expectations are met. So that's kind of a nutshell of what's going on here in the middle school. Again, so it'll be a little obviously different for our kids. They'll be in a block schedule. So they'll have 4 classes a day, which for them means, only half the homework if they should even have homework each night, right? Less books to carry each day, in person, etc. For our teachers, the same. They don't have to worry about as many preps every day as well. So it's kind of, spreads the load out, if you will, over multiple days. When it's all said and done, they're still going to have, for the most part, the same number of instructional minutes throughout the year as you would in a traditional, every day 40 minutes schedule. So for the middle school, when it comes to eating, we know that's important for middle school kids. Breakfast. Kids will show up and they'll go right to their first block class, and breakfast will be brought to them on a cart, and then so it'll be concierge service for our middle schoolers. So if they're interested in breakfast, they can have it during first block during class. Lunch will be done in the cafeteria. We do anticipate it for minimally at least one of the lunch periods, and we've added additional lunch periods that we may have to use in like a classroom or two for overflow, if you will. The middle school cafeteria is a little bit smaller square footage wise. So Mr. Proper is working out those logistics, with Mrs. Stefano as well. So we'll make that happen. But kids will be able to eat. They'll be physically distanced. There'll be X number either desks in the cafeteria, 6 more feet apart, or if they're on tables, they'll be like one at a table, those types of things. So that's kind of the approach we take at mealtime. With that, so I mentioned that. I know Mr. Proper and some of the other administrators have been answering questions here, so I'm not sure if they've all been answered yet. So we're just going to we're going to all of us take a moment here to make sure we either answer them through the chat, or I'm going to highlight a few of these. I know there's some questions that are happening a lot here, which is good. I think we did that already. What a day might look like. We're going to try to figure something out for the students who are going to be remote so they can meet their teachers in person. Certainly big important on that. So we're going to try to figure that out, how we can do that safely, early on as well. So yeah, definitely work on that. Right? And I can personally speak to that as well. So I know that is something we're going to look at as we go forward. So yeah, specials will continue. Kids will still have art, they'll still have tech, phys ed. Schedules will probably not be for another weekend. Losing track of time here. The week of the 24th. Again, we're waiting for the parents. They've already been building the schedule, so whether a kid is remote or not, they belong to a class. Right? But it might help us balance some things out if some kids are going to be remote. So, but those schedules will be out the week of the 24th, which is generally when we send them out. Most of them, but before that. They'll be in their cohorts. They go to lunch. Yes, at recess. We're almost 100% optimistic that band lessons will occur. We can certainly socially isolate them for lessons throughout the day. If things do, as far as 10th period goes, if things are good, we kind of got everything smooth, we may, allow some kids to stay that we call 10th period, that 2:30 to 3:10 range. There's no promises on that. We want to make sure our transportation is all set in the afternoon before we open that up. If you're familiar with how we operate here, that 10th period shares their buses with the elementary students. So we just want to make sure all that is smoothed out. And Mr. Nugent is the master of our transportation world. So we just want to make sure that is working properly before we start throwing some elementary or middle school, high school kids on the buses as well. That's why we're delaying that. We think 2:30 dismissal for middle school, high school will be okay the first month. Lockers. I don't know if Mr. Proper asked about lockers. We don't anticipate kids using their lockers in the middle school. I don't think most of them do anyway. But again, there's going to be individual circumstances, and we'll work with children for that. I'll come back to that question in a second. Yes, supplies will be pared down, and again, it's every other day, so they're not going to have to bring everything every day with them. So that'll certainly help. In regards to our cleaning and disinfecting protocols and procedures, we had a great practice already going before COVID-19, and our fantastic custodial crew, was cleaning, disinfecting already. So that obviously will continue, more so during the day as well. So we have a very strict, if you will, protocol procedures we'll be using to clean and disinfect our buildings and surfaces and air, etc., during the day and each day during the week, etc. So we're confident our schools will remain clean and be disinfected. And our HVAC systems are all being tested and filters, for better what the term is, but the filters will be the strongest they can be for our unit events. With that, so the air will be pumping in. We're going to have windows open. So we will be ordering screens. This is Kappa, so I think yes. All right, so we get as many as we can because like everything is a short supply. That's district wide, by the way, not just the middle school. So they'll eliminate some of that concerns. So we will keep the air moving throughout the year because we have to close the windows in the winter, but the HVACs can still run. The water fountains, good question there. They can carry water bottles, yep. And we've got all of our water bottle stations working well. I've actually tested them out myself. We're actually, I think, going to even disconnect the mouth water part. So water bottles will be there. We'll provide water bottles if necessary, or cups, etc. So kids can access water. You have to definitely bring in your own water bottles. So I know a lot of you are not a lot. I know some of you are concerned with, that remorse. Okay, I chose X, but now I really want my kid to do Y, as far as in person or remote. And November 30th deadline, etc. I just want to, explain why we're doing this, and actually all schools that I'm aware of are doing it, providing kind of a extended commitment period, if you will. There's certainly a lot of logistics involved with this, and one of the key pieces, and one of the reasons we went to full in person, or the option of full remote, is it limits outside interactions, etc. We're trying to keep kids in cohorts as much as possible. So, we by having kids coming and going all the time, you're creating, you're extending that network, if you will, of potential virus, etc. For that. So that's kind of why we're setting up the way we are. We understand that life happens. Things might change, life circumstances. And you may need to ask and request. If my son is remote, I need him to be in person. We will consider all requests. I'm not going to make any promises. It's not going to be because a whim or whatever. Right? So I just asked you, you really have that conversation with your child on this a little bit, and see where they're at. You want to make sure they're feeling safe as well, with more comfortable, or what their needs are in that regard. But I'm going to trust that every parent's going to make the right decision for their child, and I'm going to just make a commitment that, as a superintendent and as a dad, with a kid in the high school and in college, that we're going to do everything we're supposed to do to make sure the schools are safe. Just kind of going back to that equity issue. We want to ensure that whether a kid is remote or in person, they're going to receive the same high quality CA education that we've always provided here. And at the same time, whether they're in person or remote, they're going to be safe and secure. We're going to have those protocols in place like we always have as well. So that's part of the whole equity process here. So we're going to do our best, and I have the fullest confidence in our teaching staff and aides and assistants and everybody here at CA to make that happen as we go forward. So I know, and I empathize with everyone on this decision, whether to send your child or not. Again, we're going to do everything we can to make that work. We're going to be consistent in our expectations for health and safety, whether it's the mask wearing to cleaning our bathrooms, things like that. We're going to be consistent and have high standards, and we're not going to let it go. All right, we're not going to pretend not to notice. We are going to notice. We're going to be consistent in our execution of our safety protocols and procedures, and of course, we're going to have high expectations for our academics as well as we go forward. So. When we planned the full in-person model, we didn't go there unless we knew we could fit everybody here. So if 100% of the students decided, their parents decided they wanted to come back in person, we have the room. I don't anticipate that to occur. I'll be honest and upfront about that. But if that were to happen, we are ready. The inn is open, and we will have the space for all kids in all buildings to make it happen safely. So that was exciting, actually. I'll be honest with you, that we were able to do that. Most districts want to do it, but they just can't. They just don't have the physical space to do that, to spread them out, so to speak, amongst the building or buildings. So we're fortunate to have some pretty big classrooms in the middle school and high school and even the elementaries. But even so, our numbers are still, our class sizes are still going to be smaller than they traditionally already are. Yes, all kids, whether they're in person or remote, will have iPads. and we will, and that's part of the survey too, so please be honest about your internet access, that we will work with our families if they don't feel that their internet access is adequate to minimally video conference. And if you should have 3 or 4 kids at home, you have to think about that as well, because they're all probably going to be on at the same time. So we will do our best to work either with our fantastic partners we've had in the spring, such as State Telephone, but we also have some other possibilities as well for our families, depending on location and things like that. But we will again, equitable access is a top priority, so we will make sure kids are able to be part of our schools, whether they're remote or in person. As of now, just sports, again, not the top priority certainly, but as of today, because we have modified sports in 7th and 8th grade, sports are, right as of today, scheduled to start September 21st across the state. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, but if it does, it will. Right? And if not, they are going to move the fall season to what I am calling the early spring season. If your child is a remote learner, they can participate on athletic teams. Make sure that was clear as well for you. Clubs and activities. Mr. Proper's done a great job with his teaching staff to increase the amount of clubs and activities that are available to students over the last several years. It's kind of one of our internal priorities here. So we're going to do our best to continue to offer them, a lot of them in a virtual way, right? But at least again, to continue to offer the same type of opportunities to allow our kids to showcase their talents in a variety of ways. So the advisors will work with Mr. Proper on how that might happen. Mrs. Schultz is still doing chess, but maybe we can come up with some kind of online chess matches or something where kids can be the chess club, like do it physically apart, etc. But so we're going to try to do what we can to make sure our clubs are up and operating after a few weeks, and again when we get everything settled here a little bit. Good question, John. Yeah, so if a kid is absent, like let's say they're just for a normal reason, they can, yes, access remote, definitely. So if I'm coming to school every day in person and I get the chicken pox, so I'm going to be out a couple of days or a week, then yes, I can access my classes remotely, certainly. That might reduce the number of stomach aches in the morning for some of you parents, for kids who don't want to come to school because they can just sign in and watch Mr. Hughes virtually and participate in his class, as well. So, yep, definitely they can do that. So our teachers, when it comes to interventions in RTI, will work with our teachers to do it in a safe way, first of all. Right? So there might be either smaller groups, or we're going to create some possibly other barriers or something like that to make that work. Right? So again, how can we provide our interventions first safely, and second equitably for our students who need either interventions or remediation. So our teachers will work with Mr. Proper and Mrs. Houlihan on how to implement that in a way that is first safe and then second equitable, for their needs as we go forward. But yes, RTI will continue. Like I mentioned earlier, special ed services will continue, both in person and remote as we go forward. So again, our goal is it won't matter whether you're at home or here, you're going to have the same high quality education, and whether you're here or at home, you're going to be safe. And again, I ask for everybody's patience because we may not get some of these things rolling day one. All right, but again, those first couple of weeks, we're going to spend a lot of time on building community, building trust amongst our students within them, peer to peer, but also with the adults, and building those relationships, right? So kids feel safe and the adults feel comfortable with the way we're operating, right? So meantime, we'll kind of get ourselves adjusted for that, so that our academics can continue to show. And Christina, that's I'm not going to say no. We're going to make sure kids are safe as much as possible. But we want to work with families. As we move forward. I don't think there's been any more questions of late. If you do, don't hesitate to call your Mr. Proper or anybody here at CA as far as administration goes. Call me, Mrs. Houlihan, call Mr. Martino if you want, if you're a middle school parent. But we will answer your questions. We will give you the facts. We pride ourselves on being transparent, and we will give you the information when we have the information. We're excited about opening here in the fall. We're excited about seeing people again, whether in person or still through the screen. We'll be happy to see all of our kids back here in one form or another in September. I'm just going to put one reminder out for tech. With middle schoolers, you have your iPads at home. So mom and dad, if you could maybe make sure they know where they are, they're not hidden under the 7 layers of dirty socks from the summer, and maybe get them charged a little bit, etc. So we're going to try to create some. I know somebody might have asked earlier about checking in with teachers before school starts. We're going to try to create some opportunities for that, whether virtually or something in that regard. But we would ask that you maybe hint to your middle schooler, they might want to know where their iPad is before the first day of school, and their charger and their cord. And then don't hesitate to call tech services if there's any issues with your device, etc. We'd be more than happy to help them out. Monday through Thursday during the summer, our offices are open. Inclement weather, we're looking to see about snow days being remote. We're working with State Ed actually on that, so that could be a possibility for that. And again, I can't answer that. Hopefully, we won't have to worry about that for a while, at least with snow days. Go forward. Good question, Kimberly. If a student has to leave for a medical appointment, can they come back? Good question. I don't see why not. They'll have to do the health screening and a temperature check, in that regard. I'll triple check on that, but I'm not seeing any issues with that. So if you have dentist appointments lined up, etc., you'll just have to go through the health screening piece again before you come back. Middle school blocks, they're going to be about, I think, 70 minutes roughly a piece. Except the one block will be longer because it'll include lunch. The third block will be a longer block. They'll be going to lunch at some point within that block. A little bit extended. So right now, school will start at 8:10 in the morning for middle school and high school. It'll be over at 2:30 for the month of September. The kids get 2 extra minutes to sleep in. I tried to make it later, but not quite yet. But 8:10 start for kids and 2:30 end of the day for kids. Yes, we do have, and Mr. Proper answered today, we will have specific protocols for going to the nurse's office, and those will be communicated with everybody as we finish them up. Our nurses are creating those, collaborating with us on that. So there's going to be, a few extra steps, so to speak. There's not going to be as much traffic, if you will, in and out of the nurse's office as there may have been in the past. But kids who have meds and those types of things, those things will still occur, etc. For that. Safe in that regard. And Browski, as we all know, is a fabulous nurse, and so everything will go smoothly in our health office, like it does in all of our nurses' offices here in the district. So, yes to the SRO. So. So I'm going to end this tonight. And reminder, if you want to do this again, we have some other sessions. Well, we have an 8 o'clock with the high school focus, but we also have sessions on, I think, Monday and Tuesday at this time. decide to do another one. But that's what we have right now, and it's on our website. And share that link with you. So if you need to, want to come to another site, I just share the link with you right there. Again, it's everything we do or say will be on our website. This was recorded, so we will upload it to the website in a couple of days as well. So if have some friends who maybe missed it, need something to watch, to turn it on whatever they like. Yeah, we're going to create. I'm probably going to do either a live Facebook or just record walking into some of the classrooms, so you can kind of get a picture of what that looks like, or what the kids, the kids can see it as well. So we'll do something very shortly with that. So we're just that's on our to-do list. Throw some pictures and video of our classrooms. So again, I want to say thank you for everybody for being here tonight. And again, I appreciate everybody's patience and understanding as we work through this. Like I said, I'm optimistic for the year starting. Looking forward to another fantastic year here at Coxsackie-Athens. I know our staff and teachers are just, very much waiting to get back and be with your kids, whether virtually or in person. And like I said, we're gonna make it work, and we're gonna be successful, and our kids are gonna achieve that extraordinary success, which is what our vision is for everyone. So again, have a wonderful night, and again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call your administration here, and we will get you the factual information. So thank you.